Hi, everyone. This is Melissa Mari, and this is Living Gold. And this is where I am interviewing people from all walks of life who are living their alchemical gold, their life art mission. And through all sorts of experiences, you will see that they have incredible stories to share and tell that will inspire us all. So today I am very blessed to have Rama Douglas with me. And he is an incredible, what I would say, life artist. He's a sound healer, a musician, and more than that, he's just done some really amazing things. So I don't want to get to kind of the area of time that I met you, but I met Rama during the whole COVID nonsense, and he was one of the few people that was online actually willing to put himself out there and speak the truth. And then I find out what an incredibly talented, creative person he is, an incredible sitar player, multi-instrumentalist. But then he had an accident, and that just totally was, for me, watching it was incredibly inspiring. But I want to start from the beginning. Before that accident happened, I want to ask you what your first memory was.
Well, let's see. First memories
Yeah.
keep going back to because with childhood and initial memories, at least in my mind, it's kind of the chronology of it is a little bit questionable. Let's see, but there's a couple that standed out.
Mm-hmm.
One was being with family with my mom and dad and at my grandparents' house when I was, I guess, 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember goofing off with my little brother who had just been born, so he was a baby, and I used to feed him, help feed him with a spoon, and I would purposely go close to his face and kind
Uh-huh.
of dump it on the side of his cheek instead, and I would laugh my ass off.
Oh,
So that
okay.
was one little thing, just goofing off with my little brother, who I miss dearly. He's in San Diego, but I haven't seen him in a while. But that's another whole segment. But yeah, that initial memory of just kind of being with family and goofing off and having a blessed fun time. It was
Mm.
probably one of my earlier memories. There's also a couple little more traumatic memories, I guess,
Mm.
and then probably a lot of memories that I haven't quite consciously dug up yet.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But some of those memories. One was, going around the little apartment complex with my uncle Terry, who was my dad's brother, and
Mm-hmm.
he took me through the apartment complex, and he said, down below on the right, there's an apartment, and these guys have an alligator there, and he probably just had a
Whoa.
terrarium with a pet alligator, but I
Uh-huh.
pictured it in my head as being a massive lizard, down there in the
Oh.
basement. So, and then,
Oh.
little other memory of like another kid got injured and hurt his head. I think he probably had a little cut on the back of his head, but the memory
Mm-hmm.
of it for me was he
Mm-hmm.
came around the corner holding a chunk of his head in his hand,
Ooh.
and he had a big slice out of his head, and that's how I remember it. I'm sure it wasn't like that, but
Kind of
that's how the memory
horror-ish.
was when I was
Yeah,
super young.
I saw something that you posted, which stood out to me of you as a child, that you grew up in kind of a non-traditional family. It was of you with some people from India. So your parents grew up were spiritual, right? Eastern
Yeah,
spirituality.
they were into the Hare Krishna movement. So I was born into the Hare Krishna movement, I guess you'd say, and the picture you're referring to is I was 2 years old and holding hands with Prabhupada, who was the main leader of the Krishna movement,
Uh-huh.
Krishna consciousness in America. He came over from India in his late 70s, I think, and started the whole thing. And his apparently his demeanor and his character was just so magnetic that he sparked a whole revolution in the 60s
Right.
United States, the hippie movement and all that.
Right,
A lot of
right.
hippies got into it, and they were hippies, and so they got into that and started chanting and following him. And that picture was, I think, in Denver in 1975, I believe. I was
Mm-hmm.
holding his hand, and apparently my dad said that he rarely would be seen with children, and so it was to them it was a pretty big special moment.
Wow.
So it was, I don't remember it, but
How was
there's
it?
photographic evidence.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful picture, but how was it growing up in that kind of environment?
I was only with the Krishna movement for probably the first 4 years. Yeah, it was about 4 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some family drama that happened where my mom and dad wanted to split up, and she didn't want to be in the movement anymore, and he did, and so there was
Ah.
some drama where I was taken away from my mother by my father at
Mm.
the age of 3.5, and then I got
Mm.
back when I was 4 with my mother. And so, they were just kids at the time. It was just a whole debacle. It's a made-for-TV movie script waiting to happen. But
Yeah, a lot of us Gen Xers kind of had these very untraditional kind of backgrounds. Colin's parents were hippies and then they went to New York City to be actors. I grew up in Marin, where all the stuff was happening in the 70s and 80s and water beds and all this. So it kind of, yeah, it leads to very untraditional kinds of ways that we grew up with a lot more freedom, too. I've also noticed that you were, well, just even recently, you were like really into like extreme sports, right?
oh yeah,
Skateboarding and
yeah. I've
did
always been into the adrenaline junkie. Yeah, I've always been an adrenaline junkie.
when did you start getting involved in things like that? You grew up in Southern California, right?
No, I've been all over the place.
Oh, okay.
When I started getting into more extreme things, I guess you'd say I was probably around 14 and lived in Carson City, Nevada at the time, and
Oh, okay.
started snowboarding at that age, and yeah, things just kind of progressed from there.
Okay. And then what about music? When did you start playing?
Age 9, my
Mm-hmm.
mother asked me if I wanted to play guitar, and I said sure. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started taking lessons at the school, and started playing folk guitar with finger picking style, and then got
Mm-hmm.
into classical shortly thereafter, and then rock and roll and heavy metal,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and
The
then all
whole.
the other genres.
Okay. So you were into the extreme kind of sports. You started playing music. And then I know that you were in some metal bands, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we were called Mr. Buzzsaw and the Blasphemy Boys back in
Mm-hmm.
the day in Reno, Nevada. Well, Carson City had started out in Reno, and we did some nice, notable shows. Played with White Zombie and some of the Black Sabbath people, and did
Mm-hmm.
some opening slots for some pretty big bands at the time. We were pretty stoked, but I was pretty young, 18, 19, 20 at the
Right.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When did you start studying sitar?
1996, I think, is when I went to India with my father. He took me.
Oh.
Yeah, I got reacquainted with him. We didn't grow up together. Like I said, after
Mm-hmm.
about age 4, I was
Mm-hmm.
with my mom. So I reunited with him maybe when I was 18 or so,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of started our relationship through that India trip. So it was a pretty amazing trip to. You know,
Wow.
to go from just seeing, you know, U.S. and maybe Mexico, and then you haven't seen anything else, and then you go to India, and it's like, wow, culture shock. You know,
Wow.
it was an amazing trip, though.
Was he still a member of the Hare Krishna at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's started temples in Arizona, and he's very prominent figure in the movement.
Oh wow. Okay. So it stood out to you there, and then you started studying when you got back?
Yeah, when I went to India, I knew I wanted to bring an instrument back. I was, you know, playing guitar and in metal bands and industrial bands at the time, and I knew I wanted an instrument. So we ended up at a musical shop in Delhi, and there was a black sitar, which is the one I still have now. I had another one between then and now, but had since sold it. It had gotten crushed and repaired, but it just wasn't the same. But the black one, that was $200, and I picked it up in India. Fell in love with the instrument. And I was living in Seattle at the time, and found a teacher in Seattle who was very good, Larry Ludwig. His name was Larry. So yeah, I learned from a guy named Larry.
Wow. Wow. So then, let's see, I'm trying to build up. So during your like 20s and 30s, what was your main focus of your passions in life? What were,
Definitely writing music and performing. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And
my whole life. Yeah.
so I noticed, yeah, on your website, you were involved in a few different projects. You started, when did you start doing festivals and get in?
Let's see. I've like the pre Seattle stuff was mostly, you know, heavy metal, and then
Right.
once I did go to India and brought the sitar back, I was currently in an industrial group called And Christ Wept, and it was pretty heavy stuff, and you know, we jumped all over stage and did stuff that puts people in neck braces with our heads, and
Uh-oh.
yeah, just going crazy on stage and all
Right,
that. But
right.
got the sitar, brought it back, and was just super inspired by the whole India trip and the Indian music. That I started a new band called Numantra, spelled Numantra, and that group, like within a couple of months, through our connections from the other band, had started playing in Seattle at the Phoenix. Above ground and underground, there were two different clubs at the time. It was in the '90s, and
Right.
it was pretty instantaneous. I mean, we started writing songs. I started playing with some of my previous buzzsaw guys and Reno friends that had moved to Seattle, and we formed a band with a female vocalist named Mead. She's amazing, and yeah, we just started playing, and nobody was doing any kind of music, anything like that at the time.
Right,
So it
right.
was kind of like gothic industrial meets rock and roll, and you know, with an Indian twist on it. So it was pretty new,
Fantastic. Yeah.
and we were able to like pack clubs within our first few months. It was pretty crazy. We were
Wow.
very
Yeah.
blessed, and yeah, it was very nice, powerful time.
Nice. Okay. So then I met you. You were married.
Hmm.
And I'm not exactly sure what you were doing besides playing music, but I would see you having some pretty fun experiences, like going down like massive hills on like a skateboard kind of a thing, right? What was that? That was like,
Probably electric unicycle, I think, right? Yeah,
yeah,
or was that,
yeah.
or yeah, yeah.
So you were doing a lot of like extreme kind of sports activities,
Hmm.
and that was like it seemed like that was like a big part of your life, really. I mean,
Yeah,
seemed
I've
like you,
always enjoyed it.
yeah.
Things that
So
make your spirit soar.
yes, I'm similar. I've always liked, doing things like that and riding bikes. I grew up in Marin and riding bikes down the mountain and,
Hmm.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I understand the feeling of that. It's like this exhilarating freedom and just, yeah, there's just
Hmm.
something pretty amazing about that. So, why was it that you weren't kind of taken by the whole COVID nonsense?
Probably just due to my earlier, I guess you'd say, spiritual awakenings. I just did not. I was not congruent with any kind of mainstream news stories for the most part. My intuition was such that I could just kind of tell. Even the first mention of it, a friend of mine told me, something's coming down the pike, and I'm like, yeah, right. And
Right.
I was like, yeah, right. How can you announce something like that? But well, they can because it was planned, obviously.
Right,
But
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
but I just had the intuition to know in my gut that when I heard bullshit, that
Right.
it was bullshit, and it was I yeah, never was. I never thought it was a thing, and you know it was pretty angering when everybody fell for it
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was something else. Yeah. So during all that is around the time that you had your accident, right? It kind
Yeah, I
of,
guess it was 2021, January of 2021. So it was, yeah,
okay.
about a
So
year into
you
it, or almost a year into it.
you mentioned prior to that that you had some pretty strong spiritual experiences. Can you tell me about one of those that you had prior to all that happened after?
Sure. It would, let's see, I'm trying to remember the year. It was probably around 2009 or 10. Yeah, it was 2009 or 2010. I had just come back from a sitar gig. I used to play at a restaurant called Royal India in San Diego every Saturday, and they would feed me Indian food. And back then, I partook in alcohol at the time, and so I usually would have a big glass of wine after my performance, and then I would come home after being well fed and a nice glass of wine, and I went into the hot tub, and I just was sitting in the hot tub. And I probably did. Yeah, well, I'm sure I had some marijuana as well, and I was sitting in the hot tub, and I just started having this experience in my. I was closing my eyes, and I just had this experience where I saw a bunch of like Aztec-looking pyramids, but not in the physical sense, more in a light body type of a sense with or astral visions, I guess you'd say, of maybe some Aztec and Mayan looking pyramids and flowing energy, inner flow, stuff that I've seen also in like DMT trips and blah blah. But anyways, started seeing all those things, and I was like, oh wow, that was cool, And I went upstairs and I started like drying off from that or whatever, and then all of a sudden I felt all this orange light, within my person. At the time I had no idea what a Kundalini activation was or whatever, but it was just this sudden onset of I guess spiritual juice, you'd say, flowing up my spine, and this the best way to describe it, I guess, is I felt the juices flowing and coming up my spine and into my head, and I thought I was dying. I thought it was because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about it at
Right.
the time. I mean, other than just hearing other people's accounts of it. But when you're feeling something and not expecting it or
Yeah.
not striving for it, it can take you by surprise. So it was a trip. I
Yes.
thought I was dying, and I was like, wow. I guess my mom had passed already in 2002, and so I thought she was coming to take me to go with her, and that's kind of what I was envisioning. And I was certain that I was dying. I called my brother to come over, and my wife. I think we were married already, 2009. So she was there with me, and I was kind of at peace that I was like, okay, I guess it's my time to go, and I was convinced of it. But it's such a powerful experience, and they always tell people, be careful with your Kundalini rising experiences or calling them in, because A lot of the times it's very, hard to figure out on a cognition level,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
but, after that whole thing had passed, I realized that that's what it was a sudden Kundalini burst. And, whether it was caused by, I don't know what was caused. I mean, it was just supposed to happen at that time, right?
Yeah.
So who knows what the
Yeah.
cause is? The cause is not important, I guess.
Right.
But that was a pretty powerful experience.
Yeah, so these two things stand out to me, like that picture of you with the leader of the Hare Krishna when you were a small child, and that what your parents said about that, and then
Mm.
this experience with the Kundalini. So then this leads to let's take more into the present. So you broke your back. Now were you bike riding?
Twice.
Twice. Okay.
Welcome to adventure sports and adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Right.
The first time was what year was that?
2001 or 2000. Yeah, so it was like New Year's around 2001.
But
Snowboarding.
that one it didn't seem, I mean, you went back to doing extreme sports and everything, and so it didn't
Didn't humble me.
is that, I guess that's a good word about it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the second one was 2021, and you were bike riding, correct? Is that what it was?
No,
Oh,
that was on the electric unicycle on a mountain bike
okay.
trail,
I
and
see.
it was there was a rope swing on the trail, and I used to swing on it, not thinking anything bad from that it was potentially dangerous, because I just was always goofing off doing stuff like that, and had done it probably a dozen times, and just one time I gave the because I used to transition from the electric unicycle onto the rope swing, and I'd grab it and swing around like Spider-Man and get off of it. And it's it's like a rope swing you'd see that goes into a lake, that a lot of people would launch themselves into a lake, but there's no lake on this one, so it's just a swing in the middle of the trail. And I lost my grip and just fell onto a rock on
Okay.
broke T12, and yeah, that set in paralysis and all those fun things. And
So did you lose consciousness when the actual accident happened?
no, it was I mean, it was painful, and I screamed as it happened, but didn't lose consciousness at all. It was just an oh shit moment. Like, you always hear about things like that where skiers or snowboarders wreck, and I can't feel my legs, or I can't move my legs, and
Right.
it was like, holy shit, I can't move my legs. And so boy, it's a pretty crazy, powerful moment to have something like that happen, and then you realize, wow, what have I done, or what just happened,
Right. So you had a phone on you. You're able to call for help, right?
I had a friend with me who, yeah, he did all
Okay.
that, and there was a couple of angels there on the trail that stayed, and one of them told me she was a nurse, and she had said that she'd worked with people who have had spinal injuries in the past, and she said, "Can you feel anything on your legs?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can feel them to the touch. I can feel everything to the touch except for my feet." And she said, "If you've got feeling in your legs," she's like, "yeah, you'll probably walk again." So
That
that was
was a
like,
good thing. That was an
oh
angel,
yeah,
huh?
oh yeah, because had it been the devil on there saying, "Oh, looks like you're bound to a wheelchair," like those words that we teach or that we hear in times of trauma can really forge a path forward for you in whichever trajectory you choose to believe and put power in. So when she said that, I was
Yes.
like, okay, that's really encouraging, even though I'm just
Oh,
laying here
that's
and can't feel my legs. But I chose to feel encouragement and hope rather than despair and negativity on the spot.
that's very powerful in that moment. That's very important. That's very important wisdom you just gave there.
Yeah,
So you got to the hospital, and how was that? Like, what was
not
that?
that much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was during the height of COVID too, so that was not fun at all, and I had been reading about the tests and what's in the swabs, and that they're,
Oh, yeah.
all the, that's another whole topic. But I knew that I did not want to, or did not,
Right.
you know, that I wasn't going to take the damn swab up my nose, and I didn't. And I told them that, and then they said, I said, you can do it in the cheek if you have to, or whatever. So I did the swab in the cheek, and then they admitted me, and so that was the start of it. Well, the start of it was the helicopter ride, which was pretty pretty
Wow.
crazy
Yeah.
too. But getting picked up by airlift, that was a trip. I've got video of that too, but I haven't really shared that.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the hospital, I had to do the test. I got admitted, had to wait around on, they give you morphine and whatever else for the pain, which, I don't like those things, but it's sometimes in your life, you kind of need those things, if you're going through a lot of trauma, like I was, physical, severe physical anguish. And
Yeah.
sometimes you need a little help from those types of intoxicants. But so I had that. Sitting in the MRI tunnel was really not a fun experience. So yeah, once and oh, this is interesting. I had almost forgotten about this, but once the surgeon came in after the MRI and she told me what the plan was, I was like, oh man, so they told me they were going to have to fuse me, and when you're in that much pain, you don't really have time to think about, is this really the right treatment, or is this going to set me back further, or is this going to that, this going to
Yeah.
that? It's like you
Yeah.
just want to go in and try to put the trust in the people that are there to help you, that they will help you. And
Right.
so the doctor's name, believe it or not, her name is, she was a surgeon, the main surgeon who worked on me. Her name is Dr. Elizabeth Lord. And she's introduced
Oh.
herself as, I'm Dr. Lord, and my
Oh,
eyes lit up. I'm like, cool, I'm in the Lord's hands. We're
that's
all good here,
good. That's very good. Yes, that's a good
Yeah,
sign.
yeah. So and she did her. I mean, obviously she did a great job and stuff. But I guess after I came out of the surgery, I I spent the whole night in meditation, and it was a lot. I mean, you're all doped up, but at the same time, same thing with my Kundalini thing. I mean, I was, inebriated when it happened. It's like, sometimes these things just happen, but, during those times, which you wouldn't think, you'd think you'd have to be just meditating under a tree for 40 days and 40 nights to have a Kundalini experience or whatever. But, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
But my experience with her and this whole surgery, afterwards, and I remember going into deep meditation, and I don't remember a lot of it now, but the main thing to take from it is that towards the end of the meditation, I just kind of had this window open up in my vision, and it was like a Garden of Eden setting, and I just knew at that point, I was like, wow, I just had to give my heart to God, and that's, that was like what happened during the meditation. Is I saw the Garden of Eden setting, and I just knew that God was with me, and I gave my heart to God, and I was like, okay, let's do this, and let's face this challenge. And I always was very positive, and I knew that I was going to have another chance to walk, even though that was, you go back and forth after a traumatic injury like this in your thinking, but
Yeah,
you
what
know
is that? So, when you have a traumatic injury, or I mean, this could go for any kind of severe illness, and I'm kind of going through it myself right now.
yeah,
But you have these days where you are on, like, that God is going to take care of you, and you're surrendering to God's path, and then it's almost like the devil comes onto your shoulder and, like,
ego.
tries. It's ego. Yeah, I think you're correct. I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
It's like a stubborn ego part of ours that isn't, it isn't, it doesn't want to let go of control.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I had in my mind too. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
so you had that experience and you did surrender to God and you even had Lord as your surgeon, but when you were going through your recovery part, how do how do you how did you deal with the challenges day to day?
Well, I mean, I'll just say it again. It was during COVID, so the hospitals were out of their minds, not letting anybody, family or friends in to see you. So I was alone the whole time, and even worse than that, my wife and daughter were home alone. You know, it's always worse for the people that love you than the person going through it, I think.
Right, right.
As far as experiential stuff and what the thoughts are that race through their minds and blah blah blah. So, I'm in the hospital and doped up or whatever. And, for the most part, having an okay time, but at the same time being very sad that I couldn't see anybody as well during those times. But it was probably, and there was so many angels, so many beautiful people that helped me throughout this experience, and then there was some that were not so great, as far as hospital staff. But like, I just felt that I needed touch, and I needed my legs touched, and because I could tell that the connections were there, even though I couldn't move my legs at all. I could tell that the connections were there, but and so I just kept, requiring or requesting from the nurses, like, can you please massage my legs? And most of them were like, no, we're not paid to do that, but some of them were angels and they would say, sure, and they would touch my legs, and it
Oh,
just
that's
felt
nice.
amazing. Yeah, and I
Wow.
really needed that. That's like, I just knew it within my heart that I needed touch to, rekindle connections of the nerves, you know what I mean? So there
Wow.
was that, and yeah, touch.
That's very powerful that you
Oh yeah.
intuitively knew that.
Yeah, so I knew that, and then once I was I was out of the hospital, like I think 2 weeks after being in the hospital, they switched me over to what do you call it, a rehabilitation center, and there was a courtyard there in the Long Beach hospital where they started letting me out. In the wheelchair, I was able to get into a wheelchair, and so I'd transfer and I'd go outside, and as soon as I was able, I'm getting emotional again.
Oh,
But once I first
okay.
stepped, yeah, once I first stepped out into the courtyard and I was able to get into the sunshine, and I was like, oh my god, I was like so
Oh,
elated to be in the
yes.
sunshine again after being in a freaking hospital room for 2 weeks.
Oh,
So
yeah. Mm,
so I, sun gazed and was super grateful to be outside, and I was able to take my sandals off and I started putting my feet on the earth. And it was after I started doing that, like probably after the first or second time of doing that, that I was able to begin to wiggle a toe. And I was like, yes. And as soon as that happened, after
wow.
watching, what is it, Kill Bill, I think, with Uma Thurman, she went through something similar in that movie where she started wiggling a toe and then she was
Right.
able to get walking again. So as soon as I started wiggling a toe, I knew that I was going to be able to walk again, and that you know, it's it's um, it's a pretty amazing recuperation story, but I'm nowhere near 100%.
Ye-
So
yeah,
yeah,
but what amazes me about you and what I observe is that your attitude through the whole thing has been so incredibly positive and strong.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't publish those other times too much, but
yeah,
it's good for
so
people to know that it's not always all butterflies and sunshine.
right. So your challenges, I mean, what were they like? Like give me some of the other side then because that can help people too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the obvious stuff, just not being able to walk and having to push through to try to reawaken those connections of nerves to muscles and muscles to tendons and tendons to ligaments and blah blah blah. That whole process is just something that people like Joe Dispenza have gone through in his stories of his he had a similar
Yeah.
thing where he spent probably a lot more time in meditation to get his body healed than I did. Although I have done a lot of that as well. I always think in my head, and it's probably just my thoughts, like maybe I could be doing more of that, or maybe I should have laid around more and just been in meditation more than I did, and maybe that would have helped more. But I mean, you just can't really think too much about that. You just have to be grateful for what you have been given and what you have pushed through to be able to heal as much as I have from this. And so, but a lot of the darker stuff is just, and it comes up still in times of ceremony and or deep reflection where I'll discover wow, I guess I really haven't given this enough of my energy to like purge it fully. And it's just amazing in this life, like how much you can do to work on yourself and try to purge and feel all those childhood traumas and everything else that's built up in life. And it's just like this never ending onion with layers and layers and layers.
Yes.
So I'm just
Yes.
amazed at, but at the same time, I also realize that I'm a kind of a power transmuter for the collective as well. So a lot of those sadnesses and emotions that well up, I accept those on behalf of the collective, for the collective. And so that's part of my work as well with the ceremonies that I've been doing, and playing for people on ceremonies is going in with the intention that I'm helping clear the collective dark cloud, I guess you'd say. And I kind of went on a tangent there, but
No, I'm actually interested in the ceremonies, but I'll get into that in a second, because I have found that going through what I've been going through for the last year has been a similar kind of experience for me. I thought that, I had been doing all this inner work on myself and all this shadow work for many years,
yeah,
with Colin and all. And then this happened to me last year where this pain started and wouldn't go away. And I de-evolved into a puddle, it seems, at times. It de-evolved me to, like, broke my ego down to nothing. But now I see that my ego still has been stubborn, that it hasn't fully surrendered. I work on it every day.
it's a stubborn bastard, isn't it?
Yeah. And then of course, dealing with the medical system and stuff, and who do you trust and who do you not trust, and oh my gosh, it's just insane. But the point is that the idea that you're also purging for the collective, I can feel that. I think that's accurate. I feel that that's correct. I feel that when we do this when we're given these challenges in life, and if we can fully surrender to the process, that we are giving to the whole. It is
Absolutely.
collective.
We're all collected, It's
Yeah.
like we're a infinite fingered glove, all experiencing itself through consciousness. This is pretty crazy.
Right. So through your rehabilitation and these processes you're going through, you started doing these ceremonies, playing music, and then
Yeah.
also being involved in the taking of these sacred substances. It's psychedelic therapy, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, and I didn't start doing work with entheogens again immediately. In fact, I didn't want to at first because with a frayed nervous system, the spine with a frayed spinal cord, I should say, with the nerves not fully connecting and reaching everywhere they should, I was pretty nervous about taking entheogens again because I was like, oh, what if I get into a trip and I'm like obsessing over the pain of a certain area, or that can become pretty overwhelming on a substance like that, which I've
Right.
had in the past. I've had, back in the '90s, some uh, pretty heavy duty experiences back then too. But so I was very uh, cautious with getting back into stuff like that. But those things I always say, it's not you don't really seek them out; they seek you out when you need them, which has
Right.
been very true in my time. Well, both have been true, I guess, in my life. But when they really are offering you deep medicine, it usually comes for you. Um,
Right.
and that's been true with ayahuasca. That's been true with 5-MeO. At least those two, yeah, definitely showed up in my life when I needed them most.
So the five, I'm interested in that one. The 5-MeO, that seems to be one that more people are doing right now. What is the experience with that?
Well, I can speak generally, or I'll speak from my experience, I guess, which kind of ties into the general consensus for a dose which gets you towards ego dissolution and uh, samsara, or a death experience, I guess you'd say. So the first, I before I say, I do work with what's called the Temple of Eden. Susie, she started the Temple of Eden here in Los Angeles area a few years ago, and I had seen her posts on Facebook, or not Facebook, Instagram mostly, and I decided to send her a link of my music because I just felt called to do that, and that just in me sending her that music. She asked if I'd like to do a trade, playing for the experience. So I've, I was like, okay, yeah, please. And so, previously, I mean, I knew that I was meant to play for people on in ceremony, and I had prior experiences with ayahuasca where I learned that I wanted to and needed to be doing that with my talents for others, and so I was called to do it with the 5-MeO, and so that experience, I was asked if I wanted like a micro like introduction to it, or if I wanted the full experience. And I was like, full experience, And I was very nervous going in, and but during, I mean, it was just an experience that basically dissolved my body into nothingness, and I just felt like I was consciousness in this vast white love light, and just surrounded by nothing but love, and the experience was itself was, I mean, it's very hard to describe, but that's essentially kind of what you get as the ego goes away. You experience what it's like to just be dead, I guess. You experience, because that's what people describe it as. I mean, I didn't feel or think. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm dead now. I didn't think that, but a lot of people do feel and think that while they're under that experience. But so I guess probably I didn't think that because I kind of knew what it was already. Maybe, I don't know, but it's definitely a beautiful experience for those that are called to it. It can be absolutely the antithesis of that for some people if they're not ready, or if there's too much trauma, or in the past. And I had plenty of trauma, but this experience for me it's definitely like a wow. It was like a reset. And but since my spinal injury, for me anyways, the whole week or two afterwards, I felt like I was dying. Like literally, I was like, I had no energy, and I would just be sitting there all of a sudden, and it just like I felt like I had no energy in my life was about to end. I just felt that several times after, and the weeks after, and I attribute that to because what these entheogens do is they come into your body and they move stuck energy. And so if you're in a place in your life where something is maybe not going right, and it's because there's these blockages that you haven't faced, the stored emotions in certain areas of your body, and what it'll help move those. So during
Mm-hmm.
ceremony you'll hear all kinds of stuff from people. You'll hear laughter, you'll hear screams of terror, you'll hear crying, deep sobbing, but so all of that, so it's moving stuck energy. And so with my spinal cord injury, my nervous system is not the same as everybody else's right now. So I attribute my experience over the 2 weeks after, where I thought I felt like I was just
Mm-hmm.
dying, to that energy not having a place to go, because my spinal cord got not all the way severed, but a lot of the nerves were not making the connections. So I think that the medicine's so powerful that it wants to move all that energy, and with me it kind of got stuck in there again,
Mm-hmm.
partially. So that, I think, was why it was so hard for me the following weeks. But that dissipated, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And I did try it again, a micro, and the micro was just amazing. Like, I just had a lot of fun with it. It was rad. It's hard to describe, but
Is
it's
it
just a
more
life
like
changing.
DMT or just?
It was more similar to that. The micro version was just more similar to that, where I felt like I was being worked on by a being, and the being was just like giving me all this crazy medicine that I didn't understand, but I was, it was making me sing and move this energy, and it was just like, wow, very
Wow.
powerful
Yeah.
sacrament, and very,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very, it's a good one.
Wow. Okay. And
Uh,
so then you've been playing music at these ceremonies. What's
mhm.
that like?
I just tune in and as
Mm-hmm.
best I can, and just try to be a conduit for the frequencies that the people need when they're doing
Mm-hmm.
it. And it's becoming. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but it's just, I know I was born to do it, and that's my purpose now, is helping people expand in their healing through these ceremonies. So it's just been a blessing, and I'm very grateful to that whole community, and the ayahuasca community that got me started doing this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a profound thing, where I just feel like I'm providing what people need in their time of healing, and it's just it's a blessing, and I'm very grateful to be doing it.
Right. What have you witnessed some healing, some powerful experiences that you can share at all
Yeah, I mean,
during?
the other people's experiences, I won't go into, like any. I mean, it's
I
not my
mean, you
place
know,
to talk about their
yeah.
personal journeys, but I've seen a lot. Yeah, definitely. You could say almost. I guess you could say exercising demons.
Mm.
Because most of us, if we're alive and breathing in this matrix world where we live, have demonic and parasitic attachments and entities that cloud our judgments. And I'm just learning about all this. Kind of, it's been in the talks of the spiritual community for quite a while now, about parasites and this and that, and what they're what they do to our bodies and our spirit. And so you witness a lot of clearing of those energies, and those just those types of energies. You witness a lot of people clearing those things, and being able to rise above those things, because those things, they have their hooks in people, evidenced by all the crazy stuff going on in our world.
Yeah, do people literally, it's like an exorcism? Is it, I mean,
I mean, I've seen some pretty heavy stuff. Yeah. Stuff that seemed like that's what was going on. And then you recognize in your heart and your soul, you're like, yep, that's what's happening right now. And you just, a lot of people would maybe like freak out. Oh my God, hey, what's this? What's happening? But no, it's just a beautiful thing to witness and to be holding space for people that are facing like their biggest challenges in life, really. Because to free ourselves of things that deny us our highest potential is a gift that
Yes,
a
yes.
lot of people are choosing to go through, and it's not easy. So,
Yeah.
but it's imperative in these times that we as a collective do face those things and move past them.
Yes.
Otherwise we're headed towards being robots.
Right.
I don't want
No.
that.
Yes, yes. No, and you are definitely doing the work. And I really appreciate you sharing this with me today. I think it's very important that people use all sorts of different ways of purging, these shadow energies and to heal ourselves. And that community is doing very, very powerful work right now. And it's a very important part of the process of this healing right now. Yeah. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today about your process, about where you're at, anything that you have going on in life that you want to share?
Well, first, I really want to thank you from deep in my heart. I've always wanted to come out and talk a little bit more about my process and speak out more about it. And I have been a little quiet lately. Been in more of a self-reflective state lately, and then the whole family was sick or detoxing,
Right.
whatever, over Christmas for several weeks. So we're just kind of getting back to getting into healthy thought patterns and healthy what do you call it? Routines
Right.
again. So yeah, it's been tough, but that's the thing. That's a big thing, is just allowing and accepting what's in front of you, and trying not to get caught up in the right or wrong, or the happiness or not happiness of all of it, and just allowing it and accepting it. And yeah, I mean, and then going back to some of my injuries and stuff, like I knew I was going to be able to walk again and this and that, but I did a lot of alternative therapies to get myself as strong as I am now, including K laser, shockwave therapy, and acupuncture with electronic stimulation that helped reopen some of those connections and get some of those muscles firing that were not. Just as far as if somebody else is seeing this and is going through some kind of a similar thing, look into alternative treatments. Don't listen to what the doctors say, because if you listen to those things, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, if you
Yeah.
choose to listen to that, then you can go down a very dark path, and nobody's
Yes.
in charge of your own healing except for you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So thank you again for having me on here to share my story, and hopefully it inspires others.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Rama. And if any of the listeners or watchers here, we're going to put Rama's music at the end here after we're done. And so you can see him playing that beautiful sitar, and it is very powerful, the music. I was listening to it this morning. It's very heart oriented, and it's very healing. And then also, if you would like to support me and this podcast, shadowtechalchemy.com, And also, I'm doing a give, send, go right now for quite a few thousand, $45,000 to send me for alternative or integrative healing treatment in Germany, cutting edge. It's called Arcadia. I've looked into a lot of different stuff, and this is what I would like to do. And it's up to God, but I am dealing with the system here is very limited, and it's truly is an incredible challenge to find real answers and real honest answers to different treatments that people want, are telling you to do. And so I thank everybody for supporting me, and for if anyone has people in their lives that have an important story to share, please let me know. My email will be down there too. And thank you for joining us, and thank you, Rama.
Yeah, one thing
And
to add too about
yes,
Melissa's about your go. I forget what is it.
it's
Go.
give,
What's
send,
it? Get
go. Yeah, it's the
give,
ultimate.
send, go. Okay. Um, I just want to encourage people to help out with that because without that I wouldn't be sitting here where I am today. So I'm very grateful to everybody that helped support me. And I had a GoFundMe back in the day, and that helped with me getting all my treatments back. When I first started my healing process from this last paralysis injury. So that's very necessary, and I hope people can continue to help share it and promote that project for you to get you what you need in your healing, because it's very
Thank you.
important when we all come together like that.
Yes, we are definitely one family. We really are. And we need to get off the whole polarity thing of the left and right and all this stuff, and just all be human and want to help each other heal. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Rama. And everyone have a wonderful day, and blessings to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.